Your environment can make or break your fitness and weight loss journey. So let's chat about that. Hey, I'm Mike,
And I'm Twain.
and welcome to another episode of 40 Plus Fit podcast that talks about all the good things for those over 40.
Today we are talking about environment, right? We're talking about, and I don't mean environmental issues. We're not talking. Don't worry, we're not going to talk about climate change. It's not the kind of podcast that we are.
Right?
Um,
Yeah, we're going to talk about, as we said in the soundbite, your environment can make or break your fitness and weight loss journey. So we'll explore to set up your surroundings, offer some practical tips for creating a kitchen that supports healthy choices, a workout-friendly zone, and minimizing temptation traps. That is some notes that I wrote down in preparation for this.
yeah, and that's hopefully where the episode goes. But as you know us by now, if you're listening to, you've been listening long enough, you realize that sometimes we just go off tangents. But if it applies and if it's reasonable, and I don't see why not, right?
Correct, because sometimes the nuggets come from those tangents, right?
Yeah. So, where do we want to start?
I think we want to start by welcoming the listeners to another great episode. We're setting the tone. After all of that, we're setting the tone here that we are going to chat about not only how to set up the environment, but we'll talk about some practical tips that we ourselves are using
Yep.
to ensure that we set up our weight environment for our fitness and weight loss success. So, what does that mean? Environment. When I start looking at environment and we talk about setting it up for your success in weight loss, I mean,
Yep.
this is like really try capture the clicks, right? This kind of terminology. But what we're really talking about is, and this is from my experience, having cookies readily available on the kitchen counter at any given time is
Yeah.
not the best option when you're looking to lose weight,
Yep. Yep.
right? Um, putting having a gym that you have to drive 25 minutes to,
Yep.
not the best setting up of environment. Uh, living in a condo that has no other facilities. It's like literally you just have your bedroom and your TV, and then that's it. Not probably not the best environment for you to set up.
Yeah.
So what we need to look at is we need to look at how can we actually maneuver all these things around and to make best of, whatever situation you have, whatever living situation or what is,
Yeah.
and optimize that environment so that you can actually reach your goals.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that perfectly sums it up. I mean, environment isn't just the place, right? That's obviously the big thing. That's the capsule in which the word is essentially, but it's also the things and the placement of things and the way the whole place is organized. When we talk about and we refer to environment, in this case, when it comes to habits and trying to I think the technical term for this is choice architecture. So basically you're just trying to figure out and engineer your environment to be conducive to what you are trying to achieve, right? So if you're
Mm.
trying to, example like you mentioned just now, if you're trying to get to the gym more and the gym you currently go to is like what 25-minute drive away, maybe that's not the best thing, because then that's a commute of 50 minutes you have to make every time you want to go to the gym.
Yeah.
So, figuring out how can we improve the environment, yeah, our environments to allow for us to do some of these things a little bit more naturally, a little bit easier with lesser thought, lesser, lesser conscious effort. I think is what we are trying to go for here.
Hmm. So if we had to look at these kind of things, like what are some of the advice you would give when we're looking at, let's look at it from the kitchen perspective.
From the kitchen. I think the easiest thing, honestly, is to set certain ground rules. The first and foremost would be not having. Okay, look, if you're trying to lose weight and you tend to snack a lot, you probably want to make sure you don't have very many snacks in your kitchen, if any at all. Okay, in fact, one of the most common things that a lot of my clients would do is to try to get rid of all their snacks. And this is probably a lot more viable if you are staying like on your own or if you're like, master of your household. Um, or mistress of your household. I mean, I don't want to leave out our female listeners. But if you have like kids and all that, maybe it might be some argument to be said where you can have a couple snacks in there. But then now that I think about it, to be honest, if you're the parent, you should be modeling things for kids, right? And so you should be giving them like you should be setting them up for success. So maybe just saying, hey, no snacks in the house. If you want a snack, if you want to eat something, we all go out and we do it together and we go and get that. So setting some rules like this where you make the environment such that you don't have the availability of these foods for you to kind of go off track. It's already one very good change you can make. The other change you can make is then to substitute this absence of all these like junk foods, like chips and sweets and chocolates and all this kind of stuff, with so-called healthier foods, right? Like more whole foods that are not as highly processed. Example, just fruits, having a lot more fruits available in both your fridge, sitting outside, on your dining table. All these things will make it much easier for you to just naturally eat uh, healthier. So I think that's really one of the easiest things to do to optimize your kitchen. First thing is just do like a little audit, take out all the all the non-conducive snacks. Yeah. Um, what else? What else? So I think the other thing would be making sure your fridge is always stocked up with enough protein sources. And the reason why I say this is because for most people, getting protein in is something that oftentimes becomes super intentional.
Mm,
Okay, and it's actually been studied quite a bit where we often find when people are feeling really hungry or they're craving things, um, they actually found that the what people tend to choose is not often necessarily a specific foods that satisfy the craving per se. They actually tend to search for things that are more convenient.
yeah.
So it's not really an issue with like, oh, I really want to eat something that's like super, super, super tasty. It's more like, okay, I'm hungry right now. How can I satisfy this hunger? And so if you can make that a lot more uh achievable by saying like, okay, especially if you work from home, right? And you have all these ready-made food at home. That's why meal prep services are actually quite useful. Take them out, you can just pop them in the microwave. You have like a nice, delicious meal to eat already. That convenience really helps. And so if you can prep, your protein sources ahead of time in the fridge, that might be very helpful. Like personally, what I do is I prep my meats. So I pre-marinate, a certain amount of meats. And I leave it in the fridge, so it's enough to last maybe like 3 days, for example. And every morning I take out like the portion of it that I want. I put it into the air fryer right first thing in the morning. It's part of my morning routine. And then just cooks it up, and then I have all my meats for the day. If I'm going out, maybe, and I know I might be out for a bit, I might take it out in a Tupperware or something. Otherwise, I might, pop it into between a couple of buns, and I make myself a nice little burger. So small things like this that make it easy for us to make sure we have what we need when we need it really goes a long way. And that comes in the from the preparation side of things. So if you ever find yourself being caught with your pants down, where you're like, oh no, I'm hungry right now. What should I eat? Then you know you have not prepared. Yeah. So that's probably like two of the biggest things that I can think of for the kitchen. How about you?
I think I concur. Is that I think the only place I'll probably be different is that I don't ban snacks from my house.
Well, I
But,
mean, you have
but,
you have
but
two girls.
yeah, but instead what we do is we'll take that and we'll put it on the highest shelf. So
Ah,
so in order to get it, you have to bring the stool or something
yes.
like that in order to get to it. So you know it's there,
Yeah.
but because it requires that extra bit of effort,
Yes.
the laziness in us just it's
Yeah.
not worth it. Let
As
me
a
let me rather take the apple or let me take the grapes
yeah.
instead of taking that one. But then with regards to the meal prepping, that one I can see the benefit to that. We also we practice it, but probably not religiously.
Mm.
And when we do it well, we see the benefits big time.
Yeah.
My wife and myself. And the issue that I take with meal prepping is that if you prepare and you cook all the say the meats and everything in advance for a whole week, right?
Yeah.
I find like from the third day onwards, the meat and everything, it's just
Yeah.
not as good
Yeah.
anymore.
It don't taste as
And
great.
and the joy of eating actually just leaves you a little bit.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at it from that perspective, do you recommend like when you deal with your clients, because I'm sure I'm not the only person that feels that way.
Hey, I feel that way, man. So
So
So I hear you. Yeah.
so when you look at it or when you deal with your clients, do you tell them like just suck it up? You want to see your goals are bigger than your taste buds, or do you have something else that like maybe cook every 2 days instead of
Hmm.
every week?
Well,
What do you
if
normally
if if you
suggest?
asked me this question, I think 5 years or 6 years ago, I might have said, no, actually maybe 10 years ago, more likely, I might have said, yeah, just suck it up. Like you got to do what you got to do. But the truth is this, right? Like not everybody wants to be a bodybuilder and all this sort of stuff, and you don't
Mm,
actually have to. Like, um, you don't have to be so rigid and inflexible. I do think what you suggested with hey, cook every 2 days, 3 days, it's a very good middle ground for most people. But the key thing is you need to plan for it. It doesn't really matter whether you cook 2 days or you cook for the whole week. Both require planning,
mm,
and you can actually plan to cook every 2 days and still have everything kind of prepped already for the week, so to speak. And so the example I gave with what I do personally for myself is I prep about 3 days worth of meats.
mm.
Because I know all I need to do is just take out the meat, pop it into the big like bowl thing, bowl thing, the glass bowl, the whatever it is. It's like a big mixing bowl that I have.
The technical term,
The
the
technical
big
term,
bowl thing.
a bowl
Yeah,
thing, big
yeah,
bowl thing, and you dump all the meats in there. I put whatever is the seasoning, of the day of the week there that I want to use. I put it in there, and then I mix it up. I just put it in the fridge, and then you just leave it, and it marinates overnight. Then the next day, for the next 3 days after that, I just take it out, put it in the air fryer. Then on the third day, I just repeat that process, right? So it's a really simple process,
yeah.
and I also aligned it with like my schedule on the days where generally we do go to the grocery store or pop by the grocery store, things like this. So it's just figuring out like what in a sense works for you, but you still have to plan it. You still have to
Yeah.
plan it. Usually with clients, what we do is I get an understanding of their schedule. I suggest some ideas. They'll from the ideas that I suggest, they'll pick out the ones that seem more doable, and then we'll figure out how do we orientate that into their schedule. Yeah, so you can use exactly the same formula, and the same way of doing it for yourself. So that's what I recommend because that gives you a lot more control to things while adding that layer of flexibility that fits whatever your lifestyle is. But I think one thing you mentioned just now about, okay, you don't ban all the snacks in your house, but what you did is you tried to create as many barriers as possible,
Yeah.
right? You put it in the highest level of your kitchen shelf. Maybe you put it in the deepest, darkest recesses of the kitchen cupboard. So all these things make it a lot tougher. And I think that principle, if there's any principle to take away, it's not about like the exact thing that we do, but the principle is like what barriers can you put between you and the activity or the things that you don't really want as much of, right? And then how can you eliminate as many of the barriers to the things that you actually want to encourage more of? And that's the general principle when it comes to habit formation or just engineering your environment.
And I suppose it's also looking to change your snacks for more whole foods, right?
Yes, that would be more of the substitution
Mm.
effect of reducing barriers to an access to like better quality foods. So that's kind of what the meal prep thing does for you as well. It reduces or it increases the access rather to these good quality foods. Yeah.
And I think with when it comes to meal prep, another misconception is that meal prep requires you to prep all your food. So
Yes.
so it's like I've created every meal. This is what I'm gonna have for breakfast. This is what I'm gonna have for lunch. This is what
Yes.
I'm gonna have. But there's another way of doing it is where you prep each item individually. So let's say you know that this week is going to be your chicken week, right?
Yes.
So you have like loads of chicken prepared, whatever cut is your best. I'm not one of those that say you must only eat chicken breasts. You can enjoy your thighs if you like the taste.
Oh, for sure.
Um, but you prepare that and you put that aside.
Yeah.
Then you prepare your veggies and you put that aside and you prepare everything else. So by the end of the days, you're still eating the same food, but you can actually build your plate different for each meal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it gives you that
That's a
little
that's
bit
a
of
good
sense
way.
of variety. So you're not stuck in like, oh, okay, I'm going to be eating that meal again because
Yeah.
that's what I
That,
prepared.
that that's a great way to that's honestly a great way to approach it. And again, like I told you, it's not too dissimilar from what I actually do currently. Um, the old concept of meal prep, as you mentioned, is prepping every single meal for every day of the week. So if I have breakfast, lunch, dinner, I have 21 meals all prepped out for the week. That's really the old concept of meal prep. And while it can be useful, it is honestly not very practical for most people. And the main reason why is because look, you're gonna have social events happening in the week. right? And any normal balance of social events, in my experience, for most people, it's like two nights a week. Most people go out to eat. Okay, 2 to 3 maybe, and then most of the time in the weekends, some people don't even have breakfast; they just have a nice brunch. So there's these things that happen, which realistically, it's just part and parcel of life. It's just part and parcel of the enjoyment of life, and so you don't really want it to be so rigid where you need to eat every single thing exactly. Okay, if you're on a competition preparation, I think there is some merit to having a bit of a tighter structure, but even then, it doesn't have to be so unwaveringly, inflexible. So, what you can do with the meal prep in this sense is, like Mike said, you prep the meats, you prep the veg. You have a different way of building your plate. You also have the different option where, if you feel like rice for that day, maybe you cook up a little bit of rice, or you can even buy prepackaged rice, right? Where you can microwave it. Everything's so easy nowadays. To kind of piece it together, and then say, what sauce do I want to use today? Okay, I put a different sauce. And then, like I mentioned, my current, I'm in the current phase. So I go through phases with my own meals as well, and this is how I like to do it. Where for 3 to 4 weeks, I eat like only chicken as my main meat source. Of course, I'll have some outside meals here and there, but like for the most part, whatever I prep is all chicken. And then generally it's around the same taste and flavor. And for me, about 3 to 4 weeks is where I start to reach that point where I really get sick of it. Then I swap it out, and then I'll say, okay, cool. After about 3 to 4 weeks, I'm going to swap to more beef now. And then I swap to beef, and then I just do that for another 3 to 4 weeks, and then after that I swap to something else, maybe fish, or maybe back to chicken again.
Oh, I saw some kangaroo on your Instagram.
Oh yeah, I mean kangaroo too, because again, I stay in Sydney, so we have kangaroo as well. So it really depends. But the idea here is you want to plan it out and have that level of flexibility where you have the different items prepped already, so you can put them together, depending on how you feel, and then that gives you a high level of freedom within a very well defined structure, which is key for sustainability and just like doing it, consistently. I think most people listening to this will probably think, hey, that doesn't sound too bad. It actually sounds reasonable, and I think I could easily do that. Which is, hopefully, if that's what you're thinking, please go and try it out. If that's not what you're thinking and you're thinking it's too tough, then we probably have to have a deeper conversation about that. Yeah.
But you touched on a point there, and I think maybe that's also we can talk about because it might loosely fall into this setting up your environment.
Yep.
The eating out.
Yes.
Like when you're talking about setting up your environment, you're talking about taming temptation, right? You want to remove
Yes.
as much temptation as possible. But when you go and eat out, you sort of relinquish control to a degree of what you can actually eat because you,
Yeah.
you don't see how they prepare and things like that. What are your advice that you would give these people to set the right environment in wherever they're going to go and eat out?
I would say maybe as the first of I think the first and most important thing I want to say, it's not even related to setting up the environment, but it's that if you have special social events like this, you want to make them a part of your plan. Okay. And this is what I tell every single client, because most people look at these eating out things in the old days, I put in inverted commas, in the old days of looking at diets, right? People always look at these things as cheat diets. I
Yep.
think that's the most common term. But you think about the concept of the word cheat. By definition, it is implies something wrong. You're doing something wrong. And that's why it's bad. And that's why it's cheat, right? There's a negative connotation. But the whole point of like going out to eat, it's not a bad thing. It's part of life. It's something you should be doing. Okay.
Right.
The issue is if you're consistently going out to eat like every single day and just eating whatever you feel and say, I'm not going to take any responsibility for my nutrition. Okay,
Mm.
then that's an issue. But in the normal course of the week, hey, these are normal things. So you should plan it into the plan. And it should become a part of your weekly plan where you actually go out and eat. Okay. So that's the first thing I want to say, which is you have to make it part of the plan. Don't look at it or frame it as something that's bad. I'm going off plan. I'm going off, to cheat on my diet or whatever. If you make it part of the plan, then you can confidently say, hey, the rest of the week here I'm eating in this way, and then this week here I'm indulging in this way, and then it balances off. Now, the second part to that would be you can still regain some level of control if, like try to find out where you're going to eat, or if you have any control over that. Also, I'm sure like most of you listening would probably talk with whoever you're going to go out and eat and be like, hey, where do you guys want to eat this weekend? Or want to try this place? I want to go to this new restaurant. I want to, I'm sure you have all these kind of things, right? Or sometimes, like for myself, it might not, we don't like my wife and I, we're not really people that like go out and eat a lot because I she always says that she one of the main reasons why she married me is because she wants me to cook for her. But the good thing is that I enjoy cooking. I enjoy experimenting with different dishes, different types of cuisine, and trying to
Mm.
prep that. You know, in the sense, I am a budding amateur home cook kind of thing, right? So I like to experiment with some of these dishes, and I like to make things. So that for me is like the going out to eat parts. That's a nice social element to it. But whatever it is, I think the main idea here is if you can figure out, okay, where are you going to eat or what you're going to eat, it's quite easy to plan that into your day because then you know, oh, if I'm going to go out and eat, I'm going to eat like um, Turkish food today or Middle Eastern food today. You know, we're going to try this new kebab place. We're going to try this new Turkish restaurant. Okay, then we know the type of food there is going to be a little bit heavy with, a decent amount of fats. But it's also going to have a decent amount of proteins. You know, it's going to have probably get like those Turkish breads and stuff. It's going to have a bit more of like some carbs in there as well. So the rest of my meals, how do I balance that out for the day? You know, maybe I'll just have a bit more like proteins and just a lot of fiber, a lot of salad, for maybe the 2 meals before that. For lunch, for breakfast, that's what I'll do. And then for dinner, we go out, we eat, and we just enjoy. And I just eat, you know, eat and enjoy the flavors. I don't eat too fast. All these things can help you kind of gain some control. Yeah. So the first thing is try to identify where you're going to eat, get some control over that. Then secondary to that, or the next thing to that would be when you eat mindfully, as I just briefly mentioned, but eat mindfully. And what eating mindfully means is that you want to enjoy your food. You want to actually understand, like when I eat this thing, what are the flavors that I'm experiencing? That's mindfulness in the eating process. A lot of times, I think, especially if you come from the background of like, I'm dieting and this is my chance right now to eat whatever I want, you are coming from a place of like FOMO, right? That fear of missing out thing and that place of restriction where your the mindset is all about like, oh no no, I this is my only chance to eat this thing, I better eat it right now, I eat as much as I can, you know, and then you eat really fast, you try to smash everything, you know, and you end up overeating, right? And the worst part is you don't even enjoy it because right now you have this anxiety over you, that fear of like, I'm not going to eat this thing again for a while, you know. If you go from the place of like just freedom and choice and people like to say abundance, but I always think abundance sounds very fluffy. It's really just choice. You're making this choice and saying, "Hey, I'm choosing to indulge in this moment, okay? Because this is an event, a social event, right? I'm going out with my wife, date night. I want it to be nice. I want it to be fun, and
Yeah.
some of the food adds to that fun element. Okay, let's have that. Okay, I indulge here. Then the other times on my own, on my other meals, I just pull back. You know, I eat and make that choice to eat for my health. Again, it doesn't have to be like not tasty at all because I think that almost implies when I say it that way, it almost implies as though you're punishing yourself or something. But even your regular healthier foods, right? They can actually be pretty tasty. And not to go off too much on a tangent here, but I do think just as like with like social media nowadays, everybody talks about our brains and our minds being so overstimulated that our attention spans, are getting shorter and shorter. And in the same way, I do think our palates have been overstimulated as well. So what's considered like if you just eat like vegetables with meats with some light seasoning,
Mm.
some people might even call that bland. But if you think about it, like that's the norm. That's what it is, right? Like the flavors of the foods themselves have certain subtle flavors that you can taste. And the best example of this is like Japanese food,
Mm.
right? If anything, Japanese food is one of those cuisines where they are so steadfast in the quality of the ingredients because the quality of the ingredients have to be really high in Japanese food for you to taste the subtle differences, the complexity of the flavors, right? And I think that part of it is lost right now because the level of overstimulation to our palate is very high. People can eat, you know, lots of snacks and junk foods like Pringles, right? Pringles, what's their motto? Their motto is like once you pop, you can't stop, right? And all these things are like engineered to be like super super tasty. They don't even register much volume or weight in
Yeah.
your mouth when you eat them. That's why you can eat the whole thing and feel like how you barely ate anything at all. And it gives you this hyper stimulation. And so I think on this front as well, if you find that you you can't eat like a salad with and maybe just some meat with a bit of light seasoning. You can't eat that without feeling like you're suffering. You might want to address this because the root issue might be even deeper than that. And you might just need like a period where you're just eating like good quality foods, like whole unprocessed foods, and just eating it slowly and saying, okay, what's the flavors I'm tasting? Reacquaint yourself with these flavors again. Like reacquaint yourself with this level of recalibration to the palate. Yeah. So those are a couple of the tips I think. Yeah,
So if we
get
just
some control.
backpedal a bit,
Yeah.
when you say put it into the plan and plan for it and all that, what you're talking about is that you know that these are the set amount of calories that you have for the day.
Mm,
So if you know you're going to go eat out at nighttime, then
yeah.
you buffer, leave some of those calories
Yeah.
for the meal for dinner.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, pretty much that's what you're doing. If you know the exact calories, great. If you don't, it's just a rough portion sizing thing, right? So you're just pulling out. Example of your breakfast, your lunch, you generally have some carbs with them, for example, and fats, right? You might pull out some of the carbs and fats, or you might pull out all of the carbs and fats for that and push it over to dinner. Then when you go for dinner, you just eat as per your regular and eat mindfully and eat at a regular pace, and then rate your fullness, and you probably will be okay. You know It'll balance out pretty nicely.
Okay. All right. What if we have to move over to exercise?
Mm,
How can we set up our living area or our house or wherever optimally to facilitate this
exercise.
kind
Yeah,
of thing? So we could have like for us, we have a particular area in the house that if you bring out the exercise mat, then your body sort of knows, okay, I'm going into this, I'm going to be doing this workout.
that's your cue, right? That's
Yeah.
your trigger.
Uh, if we don't go to that area with the mat, then it's like a very relaxed. Our body is like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever, yo, yo. And so by doing that, it helps us get into the zone and helps us focus a lot quicker
Yeah,
than if we did not do that.
yeah,
Now we're also quite lucky is that we have actual exercise areas in the place that we live in. Like we have the gym,
yeah.
we have the outside gym, we have the tennis,
Um,
all these kind of things. So we're able to go and do that and focus in those particular areas.
yeah,
So we don't go to these areas to socialize, but we know when you go in there, we have a task to do.
yeah,
We can do the task, we can get out, we can continue with our lives.
yeah.
So like my wife will usually say is like she goes in to suffer so that she can come out and recover.
Oh, that's funny, man.
Yeah.
Um,
So what would you say is like some great tips there for that people can use to optimize their.
I think you pretty much nailed it there, where you said like there's a specific thing that you do to cue your body, or rather, actually, you're cueing your mind, which then cues your body, right, to get into the mode or the state or zone of doing the exercise task. And this is actually really key to any kind of habit formation, is identifying and specifying to yourself what is that cue. Because a lot of people only focus on the action, right? Everybody focus on like the I need to exercise part.
Mm,
But you need to figure out what is the thing that's going to trigger you to go and do the exercise. What's the habit that you want to form? And so you need to, or rather, we should figure out, okay, what's that cue? And again, when we sit on the topic of environment, we're using environment to help elicit that cue to your body or to your mind that you're going to go and exercise. In your case, you say it's taking out the yoga mat in this particular area. So it's something as simple as that, which is like you say, okay, when I take out the yoga mat in this area, it's exercise time. I'm going to start with my 30-minute exercise routine. Something as simple as that. So taking out the yoga mat becomes that habit cue that triggers you into doing the exercise. It leads you into that. And if you do that over long enough time, it's like Pavlov's dog, right? Pavlov's dogs, right? They ring the bell, they salivate, kind of thing. So that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to condition ourselves in a certain way. Like you say, now you have the gym and all. Personally, I find that I've always struggled with working out at home. Maybe this one has some deeper roots to like what the gym means to me or all this kind of stuff. But I think at a very basic level, it's just the fact that I prefer the home to be a place where I relax.
yeah.
So for me, fortunately, my gym is a nice, short walk away from my house. So so for me, my cue and my triggers to kind of like get into the space of things is like if I if I make my, and for me it's if I make my pre-workout drink, or my intra workout drink, which is usually just like a couple scoops of protein. I put some Gatorade and powder as well, and I mix it up. And then that's my drink. So doing that action, also putting some creatine in it as well. Yeah. And then putting some shaking it up and making it is that cue for me. I'm going to go and start my workout. I'm going to walk to the gym to go and start my workout. So it's all these things where you just want to figure out what's that cue that will trigger you into the workout. If you're talking about the environment, I reckon most people would be struggling with like trying to get in a home workout, and I then say maybe you might want to take Mike's cue on, hey, designate that area as the workout area, workout zone, and then have like you said, put a yoga mat there. When you take out the yoga mat and you put it there, you designated the area as you're going to start your workout, and then you do your workout. Then you just keep going through that flow of things. Um, but let's say if you're struggling to, I don't know, get to the gym or something, then you might need something different, like what I mentioned. For me, it's making my intra workout drink. For you, it might be changing into your workout attire, you know and and having your workout bag. So you might have a separate workout bag where you put your workout equipment or other peripherals in there, and then you always have that ready to go, right? And then you change the workout tire, you grab that, and that's your cue that you're going to go out the door, go over to the gym, and then start working out. So that's really how I would orientate the environment, in that sense, finding the cues and then finding what are the environmental things that I need to put in place. Yeah. So always having a workout bag might be one. For me, it's always like, okay, making this drink
Mm.
before I go over to the gym. Yeah. I know one friend who has a cue of taking a shower before going to the gym.
Oh.
Yeah. So I mean it's ritual, right? Like human beings, we
Mm.
all like rituals because it gives us some sense of control and comfort. And so for him, it's like the gym is an important thing to me. So I always have this habit of like I always shower and I change into my gym clothes and then I go to the gym, because I don't know, like that's how he likes it, right? That's his ritual, and it works for him, right? It gets him amped up to go to the gym because now he's nice and clean in his workout attire. He feels like I'm ready and fresh to take on my training. So I have one friend that does that, and like that's cool, like it doesn't seem logical, but
Yeah.
look, human beings are not logical in the first place, so you got to
That's
work
so
you got to
true.
work with what you got. Yeah.
True, true, true. Okay, so what about having a workout buddy?
Workout buddy.
Mm. Or even
Yeah.
just somebody that's going on the journey with you, whether it's a weight
Yeah.
loss or a fitness journey. How would they factor into this
The environment.
setting up of the environment?
Yeah, I think that belongs
Mm.
more to the support, accountability component of things, which I think is one of our earlier episodes as well. Yeah,
Yes.
we talked about accountability and support. But in terms of the environment, like they are also a part of your environment in that sense, right? But again, depending who's your workout buddy, there are a lot more. I would say a lot more potential like conflicting variables there with regards to aligning your schedules, how do you actually kind of keep each other accountable, and things like this. I do think it's really good if you can get somebody like a workout buddy who's walking along this journey with you, but I don't think everybody is going to be as fortunate,
Mm.
so I would not depend on that. I would welcome that readily and try to maintain that as much as possible if it comes my way. um, but most of the time, I think people will either find online communities or just outright just get like a coach or somebody that holds them accountable directly. Uh, yeah, I think that's kind of where it fits into the environment per se. But what's your thoughts on it?
I find the accountability part is vital,
Yeah.
right? But I also find that there are days that you need the motivational part.
Mm.
Having that person, like I remember there was a friend of mine that when I first started out in the gym, I was like what 15 or something like that, 14 around about there, and there were days it's like you just don't want to go. It's like I'm
Fair enough.
tired.
Fair enough.
I just want to watch TV. I just want to, but then you hear honk honk. You come look at the window. There he is with his dad. They've come to pick me up.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh come on, why not just have one day off?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, go climb in the car and off you go, and you end up having a fantastic session at the gym.
Yeah.
And so I'm very thankful for him and his dad that actually
Yep.
did that. They might not even realize that they did that, but
Yeah.
you know, they actually helped build and foster that inside of me.
Yep.
That I no longer have the drive where I'm driven by the emotion, but I'm rather driven by the process.
But yep. By
So
the
I
habit.
I rather go and I'll do it because I know that by the time I get there, when I walk in the door, my whole being changes. My
Mm.
attitude, everything. It just focuses on what I need to do when I'm there.
Yep.
So the greatest struggle is getting from the house to there,
Yep.
and that has always been a thing that I'll always chat to people and I'll say, okay, one, get an accountability partner. Somebody that's going to keep you in check.
Yeah.
And then two, if need be, if the accountability is not enough, then get a motivational partner, meaning somebody that's actually working out with you or somebody that's
Yeah.
actually going to just motivate you to go and work out.
Yeah.
And this could be anybody. It could be your spouse, it could be your friend, could be your parent,
The
whoever it is that has that kind of relationship with you that can speak
yeah.
to you
I reckon
authentically.
I reckon most people to find like like honestly just from a pure convenience and logistical perspective, right? The person that would be a motivational partner and accountability partner would really just be like a personal trainer. If you need somebody there in person with you working out, that's likely to be the case. Unless again, you can really find somebody that, like you say, the workout buddy, right? To accompany you and somehow your schedules align and all of that. But it's just so rare. And especially as we get older, we all have our own lives, our own schedules. It's tough. It's tough. I remember I used to have workout buddies when I was in uni, just because everybody's in uni, we all make friends in the gym and we all hang out around the same time. It's easier to organize our schedules and say, let's
Mm,
train together. But once you leave that that zone of commonality, right? Everybody has their own things. It gets much and much harder to, uh, yeah, just to even get a consistent workout buddy. I would hesitate to be too dependent on a workout buddy though, because at the end of the day, that is something that is really largely out of your control, right? It is something where you're now dependent on this person, and if you put too much, and it's very easy to get too dependent on that.
mm,
So I've seen it before where like clients tell me like, oh, I used to have a workout buddy, but then once they stop going, I stopped going. So it never fostered the habit for them. And it happens. It happens because sometimes we get too dependent on the thing. It's like, okay, cool. In this moment in my life, like this helps pull me along, right? But when things change, you need to pivot with those as well. So I think it always has some. There's a larger ROI in focusing on like looking at what your cues and your internal things are to get you going.
yeah,
At the end of the day, just because you will need to depend on yourself ultimately, to kind of get things moving along.
it's true. There are, however, some temperaments that do require the motivational, the social aspect in order for them to actually go and do workouts.
Yeah,
So this is a conversation that I just had recently, and I said it's like to the people is that when it comes to that kind of thing, even if you are meeting up with friends to go and work out,
yeah.
uh, by workout I don't mean like 5 days a week
Mm,
strength training.
yeah.
By workout I could mean you play basketball once a week, and then
Yeah,
somewhere else you go and play futsal in another one of those weeks.
yeah,
But at the end of the day, it comes down to your choice. Where's your priority lying?
yeah,
And because you're mentioning schedules being difficult to align, right? But when you come to this and you understand that, let's look at basketball. So you're meeting up once a week for basketball. So you're
mm.
playing maybe maximum 2 hours. I don't know if many of us that can last longer than that. But let's
Yeah,
call it 2 hours. So 2 hours out of 7 days, you need to set aside and prioritize to go and play this to get your physical, but you also get your social battery recharged there
yeah,
because you're getting time to spend. And this helps to recalibrate and re-energize you to take on for the rest of the week
yeah,
all
yeah.
the
Fair enough.
stresses and everything
Fair
that you
enough.
have. And so I always find is like it's very interesting concept where people always say, "Oh, I want to work out, but I don't have the time."
Yeah,
But when you come and you start looking at these kind of things, and then it's falling into your point as well, is that instead of focusing and relying on this, look to build the habits, bring in
yeah,
habits, and then don't focus on the goal. Let the goal be something there,
yeah,
some gray area over there, but the habit is the thing that's going to bring you your success.
yeah,
And then you start saying, okay, so what is the habit? We spoke about this in a previous episode. Just increasing your steps for the day. right? That's also setting your environment. Instead of taking your car to the shops, walk, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
do stuff like that, setting your environment, increasing your step count. And it's your choice to go and do that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think we're definitely in agreement on that front.
But I,
The
but I, that also, I do agree, and I just want to emphasize that is that when you get a workout buddy, you don't get a workout buddy to be dependent upon.
Yeah,
I
100%.
100% agree with you on that. Is that you might need that workout buddy to pull you through the season, but it's not something that's going to be a long-standing.
You but it's interesting you mentioned about going out, meeting your friends, doing like basketball and stuff because I think the if we were to be a little bit more technical about it, then what that would fall under would be more of a social.
Yep,
It's like a social gathering thing. It's just that it's an activity versus, let's say, going out to eat or going out to watch a movie or doing something else that's non-physical.
yep,
And sometimes they can be very powerful because when you go and meet your friends, you have this new goal. The new goal is to hang with your friends, right? Not just hang out with your friends, but to be able to hang at the same level as your friends. And if you're playing basketball, especially for guys, right? You come together, you play basketball, you're likely to wanna, or it doesn't even, not even for basketball, like futsal, whatever sport, you all want to be like one up each other. That's just the way guys are, right? There's always a competitive aspect to things, and then that can spur you the motivation internally within you to go to the gym on your own, workout and get better, so that when it comes Saturday night or Saturday evening where you guys are going to hang out and play basketball, you can come and show up and be like, hey, I'm fitter this week. I can
yeah,
move a bit better. My layups are going to be a lot better. You're not going to be able to, block me and stuff. Um, so I think that's super powerful and super useful in that sense. In that way, the accountability serves as a intermediate, like little weekly milestone checking and review in that sense for you to be able to get things going. Where I was coming from just now is like you mentioned, is yes, I was talking more purely about like workout buddy, go to the gym and you have somebody there, kind of thing. And that's really where I was coming from with the clients that said, hey, I used to go to the gym with somebody, but now I don't go because they're not going. And so if that's the mentality, if that's the thing, then getting a workout buddy is probably not going to solve your issue again. And again, in that perspective, you want to look for your own internal cues. But I think what you mentioned in your strategy of like meeting up with people and doing something non-physical is probably a lot better because I got a lot of clients that are, they take up cycling. So every Sunday morning, 4 a.m., they wake up to join their cycling group and they cycle the entire morning, right? From like 5:30 a.m. all the way until 12 p.m. or something. Like that's motivation for them to like cycle throughout the week to get better, so they can show up and perform, right? Because sometimes these groups, what they do is they like for cycling, I know they group them into speed and fitness level and stuff. So it's like, oh, I want to go to one group to the next group, things like this. So there's lots of ways to engineer it in that sense. So this is also a great way to engineer the environment that we didn't actually mention just now, which is to find that non-food related, the kind of physical activity from which you are hanging out with your friends. And there's a social element to it. I think that's very, very powerful. Obviously, for myself, my social activities is kind of in the gym also. Like I go to the gym so often, like I have friends there and then other friends with the same interests, so we all hang out at the gym to some degree. So there's a social element for me, but obviously my struggle then is making sure that it doesn't bleed into my workout, interfere with it. But yeah, yeah,
the real struggles. Huh?
real struggles.
Okay, I think that should pretty much cover everything, right?
Yeah, because we talked about what support systems. Essentially, we just talked about support systems, the kitchen kind of organization of things, um, fitness zoning, organization of that, figuring out your own cues for forming those patterns, right, that you want. Yeah, I think we covered most things. Anything else we should touch on before we wrap this?
I think that's
Okay,
all right. So I
very
think
good.
we just remind is like remember creating a supportive environment is key.
Yeah,
Take action and personalize your surroundings maybe to fuel your fitness gains.
yeah,
And then on top of that, we've got more tips on our website at 40plusfit.com. And don't forget to follow us and share this episode if you found it useful.
Yeah. I think we could always do like a deep episode on habit formation. I would love to talk about that one. And also if you guys are listening, like, if you want that, just let us know, drop them in the show comments on Spotify. I
Yep.
think it's on Spotify. Yeah.
We've also got some socials now. We've got
Yeah.
40plusfit.com on Instagram,
Yes, we have that on
and we
Instagram.
also have a Facebook, 40plusfit.com.
Please follow us at those. I think it will be in the show notes as well, so you can click on those and
Yeah.
follow them. Yeah.
Because then we can get the conversation going. If you have any tips, anything, any further questions that you may have, you can always drop us a note there in
Yeah.
our DMs or
Otherwise, it's just the two of us talking about what we like,
yeah.
which hopefully you guys like too. But I don't know, man. We are not very. I feel like we are very average people, but at the same time we are very uniquely. We have very unique interests.
True, true. All right, I think we'll call it there.
All right. Thanks so much for listening.